Before I start the talk. That's a good way to start. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for being here on a day like today. I know with the rain and everything, you're kind of thinking, oh my gosh, could I make it to church? But I drove 2 hours, and when I hit Irvine, it was just, actually Oceanside, it just came down. And you talk about pray with moving feet. Well, I was praying with moving steering wheel. It was just nuts. So I appreciate each and every one of you being here and being love in action today. And so today's talk, there's so many aspects of love, and this being the third week of Advent, our Advent season, and today's theme, or this week's theme actually, moving from today forward, is love. Last week was peace, and the week before that was hope and faith. And so they kind of go in this natural progression, and love is just a multifaceted topic, right? It's mentioned more than any other word in the Bible. That's how important it is, this theme. And today we're going to be looking at more of agape love, which is that God love, that all-encompassing love. I mean, we have familial love, we have parental love, we have romantic love, all these different types of love. Love of money, love of things, all aspects of love. And just like any divine idea, they can be, used in positive, expressed positively, or expressed negatively. But today, I really want to highlight that we each are vessels of love. We have the capacity to love, even when we don't feel very loving. Because we all go through those times, right? I don't love those people, or I don't love myself, or you're not in love with your life. You're not in love with your job. And so hopefully, when we cover this topic of being a vessel of love, we can actually, dare I say, manufacture love, create love. So have you ever noticed when you're out and about, have you ever been throughout your life or your daily walk, have you noticed people that just exude love? Like they just exude love. They love what they do. When I lived in Alaska years ago, there was this lady, and she worked at a supermarket. She was a checkout person at a supermarket. And she always had a smile on her face. Always a great word, always a smile, and it wasn't fake. Like most of us can read through that, right? When someone's just being nice and got that pasted smile on their face, and like, hello, may I help you? And you're kind of going, okay, that's their job or whatever. But this person actually loved her job. And she was that way every time I saw her, whether she was working morning shift or night shift or anything like that. She was always had this positive just demeanor. And I saw her again. She was working another time. She must have had a second job. She worked at a McDonald's. So she not only worked at this supermarket as a checkout person, she worked at a McDonald's in the drive-thru. And I came over, I looked at her and said, hey, I know you from cars. And she says, oh yeah, same thing. Every time I went through that drive-thru, always a smile on her face, always a kind word. And people like that just fascinate me. They're living vessels of love. They love what they do, and they infuse that love in each and every activity that they do. And I want you to realize that divine love is our essence. Like, this is a capability. This love is always in us. So again, looking at sorry, I got off on my notes. So again, looking at this that we are vessels of this godlike love. So I'd like to go back to this affirmation we expressed earlier. I am filled with Christ's love and express love. Express this love in all that I do. Let's say that once together out loud. I am filled with the Christ love and express this love in all I do. So we have, we look at some of these people that express this love, and we've seen and recognize they may not have had an easy life. They may have had it hard. Like, I look at this lady in Alaska, and she might have been supporting however many kids, or I don't know her situation, but I just know the way she showed up each and every day. And so we think about the obvious people operating out of this love, right? Mother Teresa, she had a way of operating out of this love, right? How about Jesus? Jesus is the main example of that. And sometimes we say to ourselves, oh, I could never be like that. That's Jesus. He was born like that. But really, Jesus was God incarnate. We all have that seed in us. So he experienced his challenges too. He had his moments, trust me. He had his times where he got angry. He had his times where he got doubted. He had his times where he was fearful. And we go through that too. It's part of our human experience. So again, recognizing this love is always in us. When I was doing this talk, creating this talk, I was also considering, in this idea of a vast vessel of love, and this love, just like if you could just picture a vessel filling up from the inside, right? Like some of those fountains, those decorative fountains you see. In fact, I think there's one outside here. Where does its source come from? And it always fills and it always returns, and it always just keeps coming back. That's how we are with this love of God. Once we tap into that and acknowledge it and realize it's there, we can just let it flow through us. And I look at these people that seem to have this love in my life. My mother's one of them. She was one of those people that could just give, and give. Always just, having your welfare, others' welfare at her, in her mind and in her heart. And I don't want to say that love is simply giving without, giving and just emptying yourself out. But it is that idea of expansion, that expansion, that reaching out, that outpouring, not enabling, but outpouring of giving, of comfort, of compassion. Another person I think of is Reverend Carol. Reverend Carol has a tremendous heart. It's this big heart, and I've met very few people that have had a heart as big as hers. Always thinking about little gifts. She got me this little gift. It was some joke we had over a conference, and it was this little picture of a fox. And I used to bug her all the time. I used to say, "What does the fox say?" And she thought of that, like she was going past someplace and saw this thing of a fox, and she gave it to me. And I'm sure a lot of you that have been coming here have had experiences like that, where she just gives of her heart, not because she feels like she has to, or I'm the minister, or I'm looking to butter up a donor, or anything like that. No, it's just because she loves. She loves this church and this congregation. She loves her greater family and her greater unity movement. And so how she shows up and expresses that love is indicative of this outpouring, this vessel of love. So I'd like to move to Scripture, and I just invite you also to think about how there are some people in your life that might show up like that, whether it be a mother, a coach, whether it be somebody that's alive or deceased. And try and visualize, or maybe go back in your memory banks and find one person that you know of, and it may be somebody you're not related to. Maybe it's a historical figure or somebody like that, but expressed that kind of love and say, you know what, this is possible. So our scripture today comes from Philippians chapter 1, verse 9. And this is from the Apostle Paul. And in a lot of these, Philippians is a letter to the new church. And Paul, having had this conversion, because you talk about a guy that hated, he was the opposite of love. He hated Christians, hated them. He went out of his way to persecute this new group of believers. And so Paul had a conversion. He experienced that divine love inside that prompted him saying, hey, this isn't the way. And he experienced it as Jesus, this divine love. And he had this conversion. Love can convert anybody. He had this conversion. And anyway, he goes on to be a champion of the way, a champion of love. And he expresses this love to each and every church, fledgling church, in encouragement and comfort and sometimes admonishment. You know, where we love people, but I guess the word they almost call them out, sort of. You know, that, and not in a way to degrade somebody, but in a way to say, hey, you know what? You're capable of so much better. You're capable of this, and I see you here, but you're capable of this. And that's what he's doing in these letters. And he always ends them on a loving note. I love you, or I like. And in the scripture he says, and it is in my prayer that your love may abound more and more with knowledge and full insight. It is in my prayer that your love may abound more and more with knowledge and full insight. So how do we get knowledge? One is by reading, right? Reading our daily words and studying our books and everything else. And the other way to get knowledge is by practical experience, right? We go out into the world and apply these things. We go in our daily life and apply these things that we're learning. And the third way to get this knowledge is by fellowship, right? We come together right now here and we look at, we listen to the talk and the music, and then after service we might get together in fellowship and say, God, what did you get out of that talk? This came to me or that came to me. And through classes, right? Many classes or workshops or things like that, and fellowship activities. But when we come together as a group and encourage each people, right? Encourage each other and lift each other up through this, again, love. This love of community, that love of self, this love of others. And with that, that's where the insight comes. That's where the ahas come from. Oh, that's what they were talking about in this book. That's what they were referring to. But we have to apply ourselves to get that knowledge. So how do we create this vessel of love, or how do we access this love? And so there's a couple ways. And a lot of it I've covered already. But the first is to simply be aware of it. Simply awareness. One power, one presence, active in the universe and in me. God the good, omnipotent. We recognize that we have that seed in us. Some call it the Christ, some call it divine presence, but we have that presence in us that we can activate at any time. And like that fountain, we just have to empty ourselves to let it flow. So number 2, emptying ourselves. How do we do that? Well, first and foremost is this concept of forgiveness. And I've preached on this here before, but this idea of forgiveness is emptying the vessel of all this stuff. Because if our vessel is packed with all these resentments and hurts and frustrations and anxieties and jealousies or whatever human stuff our minds and our egos can construct, there's no room for God to get in there. That spirit of love is there. It needs room to fill. So forgiveness. Some say forgiveness is giving for. That's your why, right? Why do I need to forgive my freaking brother? He's been a jerk my whole life to me. Well, because it's not necessarily for him, it's for that vessel in you. You can just simply release it. I'm not condoning the way he treated me, but I'm releasing it. I'm simply saying, you know what, I'm giving it to God. And I bless him on his journey. I forgive him for the past, and I release myself now to divine love that's coming in me. That I want to come in me. That I want to be in me. And so again, we begin to fill that, and it goes back to that line in the 23rd Psalm. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. When we bring our enemies, our frenemies, closer and really experience and acknowledge their hurt and begin to just bless them and release them and heal them, our cup is filled. Our cup runs over. We begin to bring forth that love that's inside of us. So again, giving for, that's your why. What's your why? What are you giving for? What are you giving up these, I like to think of it as, what are you giving up these resentments for? I want peace of mind. I want greater peace. I want more harmony in my life. I want better health. I want to feel more balanced. And we can't do that when we're hanging on to all this stuff. I want to have more love. I want to be able to show more love, not only to the people I do love, but especially to the people I don't love. That's where the trick is. So again, recognizing, acknowledging this source, like the fountain that feeds the fountain, that water line, that spirit line that comes up through us. And releasing, getting rid of that stuff that's blocking it. Letting it go, giving for those things we want. And as we fill up ourselves and let ourselves be filled with this love, then we can let it radiate out. And guess what? Marvelous things will happen. What do you want? Peace in your community? It's there. Peace in the world? It's there. Peace in your finances or greater drawing this to you? Because love does have a magnetizing aspect. It will draw the good stuff to you. It can't help but to. So those are the two main things to carry with you today. Not the other junk, not the other stuff, but think about yourself as an empty vessel. Just waiting to be filled up and just really being able to release the junk and let that good stuff flow into you. So in closing, we're all created to be vessels of love, and divine love is our essence and inheritance as the Christ in us. Our call today and every moment forward is to acknowledge God's love in us and allow it to simply flow freely. Divine love moves through us to heal, to prosper, to harmonize, to reconcile, and also bless every aspect of our lives. And those who we touch when we express from this love in all our thought, speech, or activity. So my beloved ones, today, peace be with you all. And may you move forward today in love. Namaste.